Welcome to Back to the Father, a show about the journey of life focused on our final end, which is God Himself, our loving Father. And now, here's your host, Dave Palmer.
Is this thing on? Is this thing on? Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Back to the Father here on the Guadalupe Radio Network social media sites. And it's been a pretty crazy day, but we are so glad that you're with us. We have a lot to talk about because I've been away the last couple of weeks, I should say. And I have been so impressed with what these young students have been able to accomplish over the last couple of weeks in my absence. It made me actually wonder if I am even needed, for this program as well. So anyways, if you don't know what we're talking about, I had to go to Kansas 2 weeks ago, and then I went down to Round Rock near Austin, Texas for a conference last weekend. In both cases, I was in the car as the show was going on. I heard the whole show 2 weeks ago. And you guys did a great job. It was really, really impressive. I didn't hear as much of the show last week, but I understand that was your topic about
yes.
Monarchy or
Yes,
the form of government that St. Thomas Aquinas endorses. So did that go well?
It did, yeah. It went really well. We had a lot to talk about, I think. So that was good. It was a conversation I was able to fully engage in. So
Yeah.
that was good.
And that's of a particular interest to you, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you like politics and all that. So can you summarize? Thomas says monarchy's best. Is that right?
Correct. In principle, he does.
Okay.
In principle, but recognizing the fallen nature
Yes,
of man.
exactly.
So
Yep.
he does address that as well.
Yeah, you got to take that into consideration,
just a
isn't
little
it?
bit.
So,
Yes.
anyways, we are glad that you are with us as well. Thanks for being a loyal viewer of this program. It's only on the social media sites. We're not ready for prime time to actually be on radio yet. And this is kind of the topic. It's St. Thomas Aquinas. It's a Summa Theologia. This is pretty heavy stuff sometimes, and so we're just kind of seeing how you like it. And so, if you're out there watching us on YouTube or Facebook or X. We want to hear your comments. We want to know what's on your mind, what your thoughts are, and Sissel is keeping an eye on all those comments. Also, I want to thank James Jacoby, who is running the board. He's our intern, and he is allowing Sissel to be at the big person table.
I got to join the big person table. I sat here last couple of weeks and I was like, I'm not letting this go.
Yeah. So, do you like being here in the studio?
I like it big for the sake of the camera angles. Like, not that everyone needs to see me clearly, but it was just bad filmmaking to have me through the window. So I am happy for that regard.
Yeah, so it looks, I'm looking at it right here. It looks very nice. So I'll tell you what the topic is today. The topic is something that I think is really, really important because it really gets to the crux of what it means to be a child of God, what it means to be a Christian, and that is we got to ask ourselves if we believe in God, which, of course, I think everybody in this studio does. We all believe in God. We believe everything that the Catholic Church says about him, that he's all powerful and he's infinite and he's eternal and simple and one. And, and you got to think, well, that's a pretty amazing being there. And, he is intellect, he is will. So the question we're going to talk about in the program today is, what does God want? What does he want, and how does that have to do with me? And if God does, like say, for example, if his will is perfectly fulfilled in every single circumstance, does that still mean that I have free will? If I disobey God, does that mean that I just thwarted his will? Those kind of questions, okay? Does that seem like heavy stuff or interesting, or what do you think?
It kind of depends.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Depends on where you want to take it.
I was going to say, depends on how far we go with this.
All right. So we're going to, as always, we'll try to make it as simple as possible. And so we always want your feedback as well. So let us know, is it too heavy? What you think. So, all right, you guys ready to get into it?
I'm set.
And I've got some cool trivia at the end
Oh boy!
that we're going to do.
I asked Dave, is it going to be anything like the one that we did that one time where it was like the prefixes of.
Oh,
whereas
Oh,
that
no,
was,
no, it's
That
much,
was-
it's
that
much
was an
simpler than
embarrassing
that.
day for William and I.
Yeah, yeah,
terrible.
and for me as well.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So anybody commenting yet, or everybody just kind of waiting to
Adrian
see?
just woke up from a nap on accident. I think that was the will of God,
Oh.
personally.
God's will from the beginning of time was that Adrian Fonseca would wake up for the program today.
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome Adrian and everybody else who is watching at this time. I know my dear mom asked me to send the link to her, so I know my mom is listening. If we just get our moms to watch, I mean, that's going to be building up the audience
There you
quite
go.
a
Right
bit.
there.
All right. So
One mom at a time.
at the beginning of the Summa and Prima Pars, we have that article at the beginning about, sacred doctrine and how our end is supernatural and we can't get there on our own. And so God has to kind of tell us about it. And then the second question talks about the existence of God and whether God exists, the famous 5 proofs. And then he goes into the attributes of God and, he's perfect and, simple and good and infinite and all that. And then can we know God? And then shortly after that, in question 19, goes into what I call what does God do? And one of them, question 19, has about 12 articles on the will of God. So I'm just going to kind of throw it out to you two and all the people out there watching us in social media land. What do you think God wants? How would you answer that, William?
I would say that he wants us to know him, love him, and serve him.
Okay.
Essentially.
That's like Baltimore Catechism stuff, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Starting off
yeah.
simple. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But,
is that,
in short, that's
is that what the
I'd say.
question asked? Is what does God want, or what is that? What was that question? Because people often quote that from the Baltimore Catechism. Do you remember what it was, or what is the will
Oh,
of
the
God?
question
Gosh.
to that answer.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. What was the question? Or what is the purpose of life? Is that what it is? To know God, to love Him, and to serve Him.
I
and this-
think so. I think it's something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. And if anybody knows that, I'm very impressed that somebody 18 years old knows the Baltimore Catechism. But,
Or remembers it.
Yeah. And I like that it's kind of question and answer format, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that helps.
Okay. So Sissel, how would you answer that question? What does God want?
It's a fantastic question. Sorry, I was dealing with the technical difficulty. Our Back to the Father YouTube page stopped streaming, and so I put it back up, I think.
Oh, okay, okay.
But that's a great question. I don't know. In the back of your head, the first thing that you think of, because you think of God like a parent, what do parents desire? Obedience, that you to honor them, to live good, holy Catholic lives. But I feel like that's not deep enough. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
enough. Although there is a priest locally here who, in one of his homilies, it was a daily mass homily, he looked at all the kids and he's just like, what do your parents want from you? And he made it an interactive experience, and all the kids are like,
Yeah.
obedience, this, that, the other, loving my brothers and sisters, not hitting my siblings. And he's like, yes, these are all good. But they want is for you to get married and have good, holy Catholic children.
Oh, that's what he
I
said?
thought it was hilarious.
Was that Dr.
That's
McDaniel?
funny.
Or,
Father McDaniel, no, that was Father Saad at Our Lady of Lebanon.
Oh, okay.
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 So-
And a few of them become priests and nuns.
Yeah,
as well,
exactly.
right?
Well, that's the thing, is that you get it. You get more priests and nuns, the more kids, more families.
So, all right. Well, let's go to the first question that we have, and I have some parts of this highlighted in yellow. Hopefully, this will show up on the screen. And it says whether there is will in God. Okay, so I guess this is kind of fundamental, because if we talk about God's will, Thomas says, any creatures, any beings with intellect automatically have will. Okay, so your pet goldfish does not have will. An earthworm does not have will. Dogs don't have will. So you have to have intellect to have will. So that's the definition of God is intellect. So therefore, he has will, and he has will. So the very fact that he has intellect means he has will.
Yeah, Adrian commented, by the way, this is from a little while back. My other live stream went down, so I've been highly distracted.
Is
I'm
anybody
so
able to
sorry.
watch us?
No, I hope so. I literally, one YouTube went down and then the other one went down after I fixed the first one. I was like, please stop falling apart on me. I don't even know why, but Adrian commented, what is the purpose of life? To know, to love, and to serve God in this life in order to be happy with him in the next. And I think that was what the answer to the Baltimore Catechism. Sounds very Baltimore Catechism.
Yeah, it really does. So, okay, here's the example I like to use. I'll probably use this in this program before, but if you had your pet dog here with you, do you have a pet dog, William?
Yeah, we have a puppy.
Okay. What's his name?
Gus.
Gus. Okay.
Oh,
if
that's an
Gus,
adorable
if Gus was here and we put a donut on the table here, right? Let's just say like a Bavarian cream filled donut, right? Gus would look at it and you would look at it, okay? You and Gus would both have a draw towards that donut. I'm trusting, right?
Yeah.
And in one regard, it'd be the same thing. It'd be through the sensitive appetite, right? You would desire it from your sheer like sensitive appetite, and he would too.
Oh yeah.
All right. But the difference with you is that you can know the essence of donutness. Okay.
Yes.
Gus wouldn't know donutness, right?
Right.
So that's where you would have
Just knows deliciousness.
Yeah.
He's like, I know that's gonna taste good.
yeah. So I mean, but Gus doesn't know that either because Gus can't process these thoughts, right? Gus just is like, I'm gonna get that. Right. So you have a will because you have an intellect. Okay. So you can intellectually desire it and sensitively desire it at the same time.
Right.
And your intellect also can come in and say, you know what? I don't think I need that donut, right? So you can make a decision not to eat it, right?
I mean, my intellect never makes that decision, but okay, I don't know.
Yeah, hypothetically,
I was
somebody
say, hypothetically.
saying that they make that decision. Okay, so that's will. So God. So now we've established that God is His intellect. He is His will, and so He has a will. All right. So you want to move on? Okay.
Sure.
All right. So now the next question, interestingly, that Thomas asks is whether God wills things apart from Himself. Okay, so He is Himself and the perfect blessed Trinity and all the interaction between the three persons of the Trinity and all that. And so does He go outside of the Trinity and will things outside into the world? Okay, so what do you think of that?
I think we use all of our smarticles up in the last 2 weeks, Dave.
Yeah,
I don't think we have anything left.
Nothing left, right? Okay.
I mean, I would think so.
Yeah.
But
I'm
not sure.
Yeah, because how could anything even happen? Like for example, if I say I want to unite myself to the will of God, well, that means that there's some like kind of there's some relationship between me and God in regard to His will, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So it says here, God wills not only Himself, but other things apart from Himself. This is clear from the comparison which we made above. For natural things have a natural inclination not only toward their own proper good, to acquire it if not possessed, and if possessed to rest therein, but also to spread abroad their own good amongst others as far as possible. Hence, we see that every agent, insofar as it is perfect and in act, produces its like. It pertains, therefore, to the nature of the will to communicate as far as possible to others the good possessed. So if you want like a quick answer, and I talked to Adrian on Catholic Drive Time this morning, it's like, what does God want? He wants to communicate His goodness. Okay?
Yeah.
So that would be the short answer. So God is like absolute perfect goodness. And how does He communicate His goodness? Well, He makes a world. He gives us intellect and will. He allows us to participate. He gives us the Blessed Mother. And so it's just like this like nonstop like gift giving that God participates in. Okay, does that make sense?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so God wants to communicate His goodness. And we do the same thing. I even mentioned on Catholic Drive Time this morning how Toya during Sherathons talks about getting the warm fuzzies. Okay, so why do we get the warm fuzzies? And you probably don't know what we're talking about.
No, I have no idea.
Toya likes to say that when you donate to Guadalupe Radio Network, you get the warm fuzzies. Because like when you do something, when you do something good, if maybe around Christmas time, you're volunteering, at a homeless shelter or something, you get the warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So why is that? Why is it in our very nature to feel good when we help somebody? Have you ever like gone up to somebody and asked them directions, and they're like, like they people love to help other people.
Yeah, people love when you offer them
unless you're
the
in New York, then they'll just tell you.
Or anywhere in the Northeast, and you're in their way, man, you are nothing. You are not even a human being.
Yeah, but go up to an average person, a decent person, and just say, hey, I'm looking for this or that, and people just want to
be helpful.
Yeah, they want to be helpful. It's kind of built into us, and so that's kind of a little bit of a representation of like how we mirror God in that we want to communicate our goodness. I mean, we want to be good friends. We want to love. We want to help those who need our help and that kind of thing. Okay, so all right, so God communicates His goodness, we communicate His goodness, and then He says whatever God wills, He wills necessarily. Okay,
So whatever God does,
like
is it necessary?
is it like necessarily like it has to be?
Oh,
You know. Does
no
it-
idea.
That's it. Okay, so let me read this part. In
Please.
willing an end, we do not necessarily will things that conduce to it unless they are such that the end cannot be attained without them. As we will do, we will to take food to preserve life, or to take ship in order to cross the sea. Okay, so God wills His own goodness necessarily, but He doesn't will everything necessarily. Okay, so like for example, if He said, I will that, William will never tell another lie the rest of his life. Okay, if He willed that necessarily, then you become a robot, right?
Right.
Because He's allowing that to not be the case.
Right. Because if that were the case, I wouldn't be able to choose whether I
Yeah.
wanted to do that thing or
Gotcha.
not.
So he,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yes.
So he does. But he does will of necessity some things, like the bird's going to build the nest, and the beaver's going to build the dam,
Right.
and the fish are going to swim in the stream, and that kind of stuff. Okay, they don't have any free will, but things with free will are able to kind of thwart the will of God a little bit. Okay, so and then he goes on to this interesting question: is the will of God the cause of things?
Oh.
Okay, so
Well, because
somebody,
wait, but what does it mean by cause of things?
okay, so let me give you an example.
Please.
Okay, so Sissel is a bartender.
Yes.
Okay, at a restaurant, and
He's not making that up, by the way. That is actually real.
this is a
In case anyone's wondering.
real
This
case
is a real
scenario.
case scenario.
Okay, so somebody comes up and says, "I'd like a margarita."
Okay.
Okay, so in your mind, you are now going to will that a margarita be made.
And I don't drop it.
And
That's what I do every day.
and that you don't drop it, right? So you will, but then, okay, so it starts in your mind, and you're going to carry out your will by getting the lime juice and the tequila, and so you're gonna kind of do it. But it all started with you saying, "I will to make a margarita," right? So God doesn't have to like make the things physically. He doesn't have to
Right.
say, "Oh, I think I'm going to build a tree."
Right.
I'm gonna make a kangaroo. But just the very fact that He wills it happens.
It just happens. Yeah.
It happens because he's pretty cool that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how my margaritas happen. Can confirm.
But imagine if that was the case, where all like somebody says, "I'll take a margarita,"
And he's like, "Phew."
and there it is.
And then my tips would be like,
I know.
they're like, she's instantaneous.
Everybody like, have you heard of this Sissel, the bartender,
Like,
man? You just
drinks
mentioned
are going out like that.
you just mentioned that you want a margarita, and
it's like a margarita pop.
It's right there.
And there be none of my human imperfections on it either. Of like, oh, I accidentally did a slightly under or over pour of tequila or something. You know.
Yeah, I know. Can I do a favor and ask James? Would you mind getting me a water? Because
Oh.
I'm getting. I had to.
I
run.
meant to have waters in here for you too.
Where's
I'm
the
sorry.
waters? I mean,
See, Dave,
you
you
guys
leave
want
for
one also?
yeah, sure. You leave for a couple weeks, Dave, and we have got nothing.
I know, no waters. I mean, I'm here parched. I can hardly talk. All right, so hopefully everybody is following along as we talk about the will of God, and and I've taught this a number of times to students, and so many of you are kind of reading this for the first time, and so it's a little bit more challenging. But are we ready to move on? Okay, so
Yes.
you got it. Okay, so
I like margarita examples, by the way. If we can continue teaching the Summa through margarita examples.
All right. Any other comments? Anybody?
Let me just talk to a couple people really quickly. Lori is watching on Facebook, and she was letting me know that the Facebook stream has been perfect. No, besides the YouTube ones going on and off here.
Okay,
But
okay.
we're still holding strong right now on YouTube. And Forrest joined us.
Oh, all right. Forrest, how you doing?
It
Yeah,
is,
Forrest has been around for like
I
forever,
know.
hasn't he?
We love Forrest. So, and then Adrian says, Dave, have you tried photosynthesis?
Have I tried it? Like,
Yes.
what does that mean?
I'm going to ask him to clarify that.
I don't know. I don't know what I try. I try breathing as a result of the process of photosynthesis, but I can't photosynthesize because try as I may, it's not in my nature to photosynthesize, right? It's pretty cool, though. I think I've said before, when I first learned about the photosynthesis process, and to this day, I am absolutely fascinated by trees. I mean, there are trees like everywhere, and I notice like all of them. I just find them fascinating creatures because of what they do, and they're so like simple and they're kind of plain looking, but they're very interesting creatures. They do a lot of good. They serve humanity.
Instead of drinking water, never mind, it's a reference that we clearly did not get.
Okay. Is that what Adrian said?
Yes.
Okay. Does he want to explain that?
I said, let us know what the reference is from so we know what we're missing out on as far as how we're not cool in is it a pop culture reference? I don't know. I either get them or I don't.
See, Adrian had me on this morning to talk about the will of God, and I redirected the conversation at the beginning to talk about boxing because he had a guest on talking about boxing before me and whether boxing was, good and all that. And I threw a little monkey in the wrench by saying I don't think boxing is good if the main purpose is to make money. If I'm going to like beat up William or get beat up by William just so that the two of us can earn $1 million.
Right. Doesn't exactly
there's some questionable nature to that. Yeah. For sure.
I mean, if I could, play a chess match with him and we each get $1 million, I think that would probably be okay.
Yeah, because no damage is done besides to your pride.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, I would just learn to. Oh my goodness, one of the YouTube streams went offline again. Are we on like a set thing? We can only be live for 10 minutes or something.
Man, maybe some spiritual force does not want people to learn about the will of God today.
I will just hang tight, everybody.
Okay, so
we'll be back.
I am going to move on to the next one because, time waits for nobody, right? And so
Our stream certainly doesn't.
I apologize for all the difficulties that we're having, but if you're still with us, okay, so then he goes on and says, this is very interesting. Is the will of God always fulfilled? Okay, and people would, kind of naturally say, well, no, because, when crimes happen, that certainly is not the will of God, right? And when those terrorists flew their planes into the World Trade Center, that certainly wasn't the will of God, but that happened, right? So the will of God is not always fulfilled. What would you say, William?
I still think it is because he doesn't, because he always wills the good, but back to the principle that, all good things come out of a bad event. Mm-hmm. So even though a bad event may still happen, he still is going to will the good out of that bad thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's going to say. Okay. Yeah, and I love how he says this. He says something may fall outside the order of any particular active cause, but not outside the order of the universal cause, under which all particular causes are included. So this is the way I like to see it, is that God establishes the order of all things. Okay, so he establishes the universal cause. He could have set up a world where everything worked perfectly, where everything was his direct will and everybody is friendly and nobody ever lies or commits crimes and nobody ever kills anybody and nobody commits fraud or robbery or theft. Mm-hmm. And you'd have this perfect world. But what God did instead was that he created a world and he allowed what's called contingencies. He allowed people to step outside of his perfect will by sinning, because if he didn't allow that, we could not love him. I teach a class at school, and I tell them all the time, I said, you know what, if I could just say, snap my fingers and every single person in this class has to be perfectly attentive and perfectly obedient, and just
every teacher would love
hanging
that.
on every word that I say, I still wouldn't like that.
No,
because it wouldn't, first of all, be any reflection of anything that I've done. And secondly, I've taken away their free will. Because now I can say, you know what, Sally is so virtuous. Now, Fred over there, not so much. But Sally's virtue stands in contrast to Fred's disobedience, right? So she can, but if I take away the freedom, then Sally's not virtuous. She's just a robot, right?
Right.
But at the same time, God, in this universal order, has said, okay, and kind of like what you're saying, William, before, is that when something gets out of line, he brings it back in some other way by bringing a good out of it, right?
Right.
And
exactly.
so the overall like schema is going to work according to God's will, even if he allows certain things to kind of fall away from it.
Right.
Okay. Does that make sense? Those of you who are
That does,
going in and out of our broadcast.
He's just trying to make me go crazy today. And
Did something else go down?
No, just one's gone down twice, and the other one I'm just waiting for it now to go down a second time, any possible second. But so far we're holding steady. So I hope everyone found their way back to us again on our Back to the Father YouTube page. But it does make sense. It feels like seems like one of the harder things to sometimes explain. To others especially.
Can I give an example?
Please give
so
examples.
I may again. I don't know. We've been doing this for so many years. I don't remember what examples I've now done. But William probably hasn't heard this for sure. So I've got a 10-year-old son, and let's say I say to myself, okay, I'm gonna bring some candy home. And when I go home, if my wife says that Patrick was good today, I'm going to give him candy. If my wife says that Patrick was really bad today, I'll discipline him and I'll put him in the corner for 10 minutes. Okay. So I've allowed a contingency where Patrick can choose, to be good or to not be good. And in one case, I'm going to reward him. And in another case, I'm going to discipline him. Okay, so it really doesn't matter what Patrick does. In either way, my will is fulfilled because I set up the plan.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I set it up where,
either way,
I win.
You win.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to drive me crazy because a few weeks ago in my young adult group that I help lead, this question came up, and I knew there was an example you used with like a father and son, and I was trying to explain it to help everybody, and I slaughtered it. Now I need to drill this in my memory.
Yeah.
As I was talking, everyone's looking at me, and I'm like, "This is not helping, is it?"
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So yeah.
But that's a really good example, I think.
Yeah. I mean, so God says, okay, you do something wrong, you sin, well, you're going to be brought back into an order through discipline or through punishment or some kind of thing. So another. So, all right. So I know you'll let us know if there's any comments out there, but hopefully, is this making sense? Those of you who are still with us, is this making sense on a scale of 1 to 10? And we've got a few more here that we're going to talk about. So the next one says, is the will of God changeable? I probably can guess that one because that kind of has to do with whether it's always
I think this might be the only one we get perfectly right on the first go. I'm going to say no.
Okay, let me read this. The will of God is entirely unchangeable. On this point, we must consider that to change the will is one thing. To will that certain things should be changed is another. Okay, stay with me. It is possible to will a thing to be done now and its contrary afterwards, and yet for the will to remain permanently the same, whereas the will would be changed if one should begin to will what before he had not willed. Okay, so I could say to my 10-year-old son, you are not allowed to drive a car, right? But then, 6 years from now, you can drive a car. And he'd be like, oh, your will changed. No, it didn't. Circumstances changed, right? So now you can because you're 16, right?
Exactly.
So did my will change, or are there some little variables that classic example, children cannot have relations with somebody of the opposite sex, but when they get married, okay, now you can, right?
Can.
So that very fundamental rule changed because circumstances changed, right?
Right.
So I think that's he's saying, but it doesn't change. And the obvious question that comes up with this is like, well, what about prayer? What about prayer? Don't I change God's mind when I pray and God wasn't going to give me that that the perfect husband for Sissel, or but now he
still waiting on that one, by the way.
And if you're out there, by the way, wouldn't that be awesome if you met your future husband?
Back to the Father.
You would have to invite me to the wedding.
Oh, you were never going to be it. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, seriously. I mean, if it comes as a result of this show.
Yeah, I guess you do get that in that regard. Dave and I recently played a little bit of matchmaker with some people we know here in North Texas, and I'm like, I just at least want a piece of cake. That's all I ask. A piece of the wedding cake, please.
Yeah, that would be kind of tacky. You know, you're not invited, but we'll bring a piece of cake to you the next day. Okay, we don't necessarily want you to be at the wedding. Okay, so all right, so moving on. Does the will of God impose necessity on the things willed? Okay, and since the divine will is perfectly efficacious, it follows not only that things are done which God wills to be done, but also that they are done in the way that he wills. Now, God wills some things to be done necessarily and some contingently. We've already kind of talked about that. I gave an example, you know, like he wills the fish to swim down the stream, and that fish is going to swim down the stream, right? The fish has nothing to say about it. He wills the bird to build a nest, okay? But does he will, you know, me to drive the speed limit on the way home tonight? You know, yeah, in his perfect will, yeah. But am I going to do it? Well, with all the traffic, probably with all the traffic we have, I probably will. I'll probably be going slower than the speed limit, right? Okay, so what he's going to say here is there are some things that he imposes necessity on, and some things that he doesn't. But again, that's that big, you know, universal cause and all the things that in the world that play a part, and he allows contingencies within it. Okay. Does God will evil? Okay. Does God will evil? You probably know the answer to this one,
No.
right?
No.
You don't? You think you
No, no was our answer.
But you're thinking, well, since
Our
there is
answer was
evil,
no.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're
that
not
was
saying
our-
you don't know. You're saying
Right,
the
I'm
answer
saying
is
no is the
okay.
answer.
Say no, yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I can. Okay. Basically, he says, okay, look at this example here halfway through. Okay. About 5 lines down. The fornicator has merely pleasure for his object, and the deformity of sin is only an accompaniment. Now, the evil that accompanies one good is the privation of another good. Now, therefore, would evil be sought after, not even accidentally, unless the good that accompanies the evil were more desired than the good of which. So he's saying kind of what you mentioned before. Yeah. You know, and he uses an example of where is? Oh yeah, look at this. When a lion kills a stag, his object is food, to obtain which the killing of the animal is only the means. Okay, so a stag or a deer being killed, that's kind of a sad thing, right? That's kind of an evil in the sense that something living died. But the lion's not thinking that.
Right.
The lion's like, man, I got a tasty stag here that I get to chow down on. So does God allow a lion to eat a stag? Does he allow us to kill chickens, to kill cows? It's kind of an evil with a little e, isn't it? I mean, that there's something has to die in order for us to. But that's the cycle of life, right?
Depends on who you're talking to. Vegans would very much say that was
but-
evil with a big E.
But but vegans have to kill something to live.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and also I think a lot of the delicious plants that we eat, a lot of the vegetables and stuff like that, farmers do have to kill animals to keep those plants going.
They have to.
They have to keep animals out of their fields somehow.
They have to kill them to keep.
They
them.
put
So
lots
something
of
has
things,
to die for the vegetarian to live,
yes,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's kind of a flawed argument usually.
Yeah, interesting. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I do, a random aside, I always, as a kid, watching any nature documentary, when the guy's sitting there with the camera and they're showing the cutest little animal, and then it's the prey, and then the predator approaching it, and they're like, it's heartbreaking to watch, but we can't do anything to interrupt and must let nature take its course. And I'm like, I could not. I'd let that bunny have another day. Like, I would absolutely be running over there and grabbing the bunny and like running.
You know that
drove me
you
crazy.
bring up a good question because I've had a lot of like constrictor snakes in my life, and there was a time in my life when I wouldn't say I take joy, but I found it interesting to like throw a mouse in with a boa constrictor and see the snake, you know, eat the mouse and constrict it and all that. Or I used to, you know, get frogs and throw them in with water snakes, and the frogs are jumping all over the place and all that. But it's kind of weird to take pleasure in that.
Yeah.
You know, you can get frozen rats and frozen mice, and then they'll still eat them. You know, but I don't know. I think boys much more so than girls take it's almost like a sadism. Like you enjoy seeing something, you know, get killed. I know you wouldn't enjoy that, would you?
It's not pleasant. I mean, my brother caught a few different animals growing up, and we would definitely feed it some things, and there was some fascination with it, but I ultimately didn't like it.
Mm-hmm. We had a rat one. We had a snake one time, my buddy and I, and it was like a rat snake or something, and so we went and bought a rat, you know, and a rat snake would eat a rat, right? And we put it in with it, and they kind of both went to their own corners, and nothing happened. And we were thinking, come on, snake, you know, and it was the proper size so that the snake would, you know, be able to eat the rat and all that. So then we got bored, and we put the lid on the aquarium, and we went inside and came back about 30 minutes later. The rat had eaten the head off the snake. And so it was a total reversal. The rat had killed the snake. So then, being punky little kids that we are, we're thinking, okay, we went down to the woods and we got a bunch of scorpions, and we threw like 5 scorpions in with the rat because we're trying to kill the rat. You know, we don't want a rat, right? We wanted the snake, right? So now we're trying to kill the rat with scorpions. Well, the rat methodically went up to each scorpion, grabbed its little tail, bit it off, and ate the scorpions. So I was like, man, this rat would not die, you know?
That is bizarre.
So I'm not going to tell you what happened next. But,
Thank you.
the rat's no longer alive, let's just say. This was about 40 years ago.
Freeze-dried rat is what, and Lori's saying ew, Dave, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry to go there, right? So, okay,
Just took a change.
So we're down to our last 2. I want to read this one interestingly. I'll throw out the question, does God have free will? Okay, think about that. Have you ever thought about that? Does God have free will? And Thomas is going to say yes and no.
Of course he is. Someone last night, we were, I think we did a Q&A with my priest at my parish, and I think someone asked a question. He's like, well, yes and no. And under my breath, I was like, that's very Aquinas of you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it's, but, you know, yes and no is kind of, so listen, I'm just going to read this. Okay, and then let's chat about this amongst ourselves, okay? We have free will with respect to what we will, not of necessity, nor by natural instinct. Okay, so, which I think what that means is like that donut example, right? Yeah. You did not have free will in regard to the desire for it, okay? I mean, we know that's true. I mean, I didn't ask to desire a donut, okay? Right. So we don't have free will in a lot of regards, okay? I don't have free will in regard to whether I get tired tonight.
Right.
Okay. I also, Thomas would say, echoing Aristotle, is that we don't have free will in our desire for happiness. Okay. That is innate in us. We all want to be happy, and we cannot not want to be happy. Okay, so then he says, for our will to be happy does not appertain to free will, as I just said, but to natural instinct. We naturally want to be happy. Hence, other animals that are moved to act by natural instinct are not said to be moved by free will. Okay, the snake wanting the mouse, the bird wanting the worm, that's not free will. It's natural. Mm-hmm. Since then, God necessarily wills his own goodness, but other things not necessarily. He has free will with respect to what he does not necessarily will. That's interesting. Okay, if he necessarily wills a bird to build a nest, does that mean that's not part of God's free will? That's what it seems to be saying. But if he wills Sissel to, whatever, practice temperance.
Mm-hmm. He usually does. Yeah.
That's free will, because there's a possibility that it won't happen. Okay, and she chugs 10 beers tonight. That would be very intemperate to do that. I don't see that happening.
No, I don't like beer.
So I don't. To me, it's really interesting, because it means that only certain parts of the divine will are free will, and not all of them.
Interesting.
Okay.
a little confusing.
That
but
is very confusing.
Yeah, I'll get it.
I don't know. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there. Any other comments out there among social media land? We're down to our last article of this 19th question of Prima Pars of the Summa. And I'll throw it out this way because what he's going to basically say, and he says it in a very Thomistic way, whether the will of expression is to be distinguished in God. What he means is, are there passions in God? Okay, does God, it says in Scripture, God gets angry. God.
Oh, Old Testament,
Yeah,
especially.
very, very Old Testament kind of thing. So would you say God has passions? I heard a talk one time where somebody, a professional theologian, said, God does have passions. God had feelings, because he had, we got to be able to relate to God, and certainly he's not just this passionless, feelingless being that,
Yeah, I mean, Jesus did become man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he did experience things like
Jesus had passions.
yes, Jesus
Yeah.
did. Like, he
Right.
did experience, like, sadness and happiness. Like, when Lazarus died, he was sad.
But what about
But
God?
the-
like God,
the first person of
the
the
Blessed Trinity.
Blessed Trinity, yeah.
God is God in his essence.
Yeah.
Does he have any
passions?
passions? Okay, so let me read this.
Yeah, let's see what St. Thomas Aquinas says.
Some things are said of God in their strict sense, others by metaphor. When certain human passions are predicated of the Godhead, metaphorically, this is done because of a likeness in the effect. Hence, a thing that is in us a sign of some passion is signified metaphorically in God under the name of that passion. Thus, with us, it is usual for an angry man to punish, so that punishment becomes an expression of anger. So when somebody punishes, you assume they're angry. Therefore, punishment itself is signified by the word anger, when anger is attributed to God. So when God punishes in like Scripture, we assume, he is angry. Okay, so we've assumed, we've assigned a passion to him. In the same way, what is usually, my screen got blocked here. What does it say? In the same way, what is usually with us an expression of will is sometimes metaphorically called the will of God. Okay. So it's only metaphorical.
Gotcha.
God doesn't have any passions.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it says, Adrian says, no, God in the communication of idioms has passions in the person of Christ, but properly speaking, God does not. And
What he
Adrian,
said.
Yes, exactly. Summed it up. Earlier, Adrian did ask, hold on, I lost it. Does God fulfill everything he desires?
Does God fulfill everything he desires? Wow, that's a different twist on it. Thomas didn't ask that directly. So does God fulfill everything he desires? I don't know if Adrian's still watching or not, but does Adrian know the answer, or is he
Asking.
or is he just asking? Does God? Okay, say it again. Does
God fulfill everything that he desires?
Does he fulfill? Because that would seem like there's some like operation of the Godhead.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he wants William to never lie again the rest of his life. Does God fulfill that? Because I think if he fulfilled it, then he would take away your free will.
Logically, that does make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Adrian, you
It's
still
interesting.
there? See, that's the danger of asking a question. If you bail away, then
Then we're just like,
the host
we're
starts,
left in the
talking
dust
about
over
you.
here.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just kind of hit and run. I mean, you ask a question and then you take off, right?
Lori's asking a question. Why do we ask for intercessions?
Oh, okay. Well, now this is my understanding of, and there's I know you guys talked about prayer a couple of weeks ago. My understanding, the best way that I can explain prayer is that God creates, again, a big system where he allows for contingencies. Like, let's say, like hypothetically, I set up in my mind, I tell Sissel, I said, if William comes in next week and asks if he can start getting paid for his internship, we're going to let him. But if he doesn't ask, we won't. Okay, so I've set up a little system in my mind where either way my will is fulfilled. But the contingency is that you have to ask. Okay? Now, it may be that I don't will at all for you to start getting paid. So I don't even create that scenario. Okay. So then if you were to come and say, hey, can I start getting paid? Well, that was never even in my mind. Okay. So that's like an unanswered prayer.
Okay.
Whereas if I said, Sissel, I think if he asks, we're going to go ahead and start paying him $1,000 a show. Okay, what Sissel gets
Really?
paid. Yeah, we're going to give him the same rate that
Where
Sissel
is
gets
this
paid, right?
All I have to do is ask.
Okay, but then if I say, well, if he doesn't ask, then okay. Or I might say, okay, but then let's say William says, Saint Francis of Assisi, please intercede for me, but maybe I set up a system where if William asks for the intercession of a saint, I'm going to create that scenario. Okay, you see how it works?
Yeah, I
Like
think
so God in his simplicity and his beauty is creating all these scenarios where if Sissel will only ask tonight for that perfect husband, God is going to have him come and knock on her door tomorrow morning.
That'd be ideal because
Okay.
I don't like going out.
He's going to come knocking on the door. And, okay, so yeah, but then that also, so anyways, that's.
I also
That
think
makes
that
sense.
I think Aquinas mentioned it a little bit when we were talking about prayer a few weeks ago, and then also there's other saints that comment on it too. That sometimes it's also prayer is something that helps us as well, either have our mindset better aligned with God's will, and be open to things that maybe weren't in our plan as well. So it changes us a little bit more.
Yeah, right. It allows us to be reminded of our dependency. Hey, James, can I ask you one more thing? I'm sorry. It's just the nature of how I had to jump into the show today right after being off the air. I have something on the printer. Do you know where the printer is? That far room? Would you mind grabbing that for me and bringing it in? I really appreciate that. I got off the air at 1, ran in here, and here I am. So I'm not normally this demanding.
Sorry,
of
we
our-
normally are a little more set up. I was just getting a lot of things done right before the show.
So I willed that they have a water and my printing thing here, but apparently they're not in union with my will, right?
By the
Okay.
way, Adrian says that he was here. He says his question was, it's a play on the Protestant position of once saved, always saved. And then also, he says that Alan Smith said, I will find her at a Taco Bell wearing a miraculous medal. So he's hitting up Taco Bell every day now. So
What? You totally lost me there.
So he's saying that someone told him that he's going to meet his future wife at a Taco Bell when she's wearing a miraculous medal, which, listen, I love a Taco Bell every once in a while, but like you may not live long enough if you eat Taco Bell every day to find her.
Right. You may get married and die of a heart attack a year into it, right? Okay.
Oh,
okay.
goodness.
And that could get a little superstitious too. It's
Yeah,
like, I'm going to
sure.
start showing up at Taco
Yeah.
Bells. And,
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of things that I think, especially for young adults, you get into sometimes older people really do mean well, but they'll say things like, well, you're just not in a place where God is ready to have you have a relationship, or you maybe need to do this before you have a relationship, or this isn't. It's kind of like, listen, you never know when God's going to do it. It's not necessarily all these magical things have to be lined up. It's not necessarily that you're, there's just sometimes people say things that are like, oh, maybe he just is telling you need to do this, or something. And you're like, that may not be the case. It just may not be.
It can be kind of complicated.
It's
can't
very
it?
complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be very complicated. All right. I think that's it. That's the
it?
will of God. You feel like you know a little bit more about the will of God
Yes.
Yeah,
a
than
little.
you did
Definitely, yeah.
50 minutes ago? Yeah, it's interesting stuff. See, if we did we just did a question of the Summa pretty thoroughly, okay, a question. There's 631 questions. So if we did one of those every week and we did a show every week of the year, we would finish the whole Summa, I think, in 7 years, okay? But we'd
Wow.
have to do a question a week.
7
Are y'all
years,
committed
wow.
to that? Remember, you're getting $1,000 a show.
I'll
Yeah,
be 32.
I mean, maybe.
I will be 32.
And we'll still be talking about your future husband.
Because I don't have time because I'm always here studying about the Summa to go meet my husband.
There's some guy who's like, hey, any girl that could sit through a show once a week on the Summa, that's the girl for me.
That's the girl for me. And I
Yeah.
make a mean margarita and old
Oh,
fashioned.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and all you have to do is think about it.
All I have to do is think
Okay.
about it and poof.
You will it.
You can't see it, but I can see it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So, all right, well, you guys are going to be so impressed with my creativity here. Okay, just be impressed. All right, because what we're going to do in this trivia game, and dear friends out there in social media land, you can certainly play along as well. is that we are going to do trivia about people who have the name Will.
I thought we were going to talk about people's wills, and
Okay.
I like their wills.
And you might be able to relate to people
Oh, yeah.
named Will
Oh, yeah.
because you are Will, right? Okay.
Oh,
the famous.
my brother's Will M.
I have a brother, William. Isn't that
Well,
amazing? Do you, James? Do you have a
wow.
brother named William?
No.
Okay. No. He's like, no.
He broke. Do you have an
Okay.
uncle named?
Do you have anybody in your family named William?
Do you have
Okay.
a friend?
All
Oh,
right.
darn.
So now also remember, William, has different, variations. And so it doesn't have to be just the name Will, although many of them are. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Y'all ready?
I hope so.
First one to get it.
All right.
This one. Okay. Here we go. English playwright, poet, and
William
William
performer.
Shakespeare.
I think I said it first. I'm pretty
I think we got it just like
barely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one got it first. Okay.
I was saying William. I mean, I was just barely getting William, and you said Shakespeare.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Hey, Forrest's oldest son is named William.
Oh, is that right? We all got
Yes,
a William.
the William.
I have an uncle, Bill.
There
I
you
have
go.
a brother, Bill, who is
Does anyone
William.
have an uncle named Bob, by the way? Bob's your uncle. I have an uncle named
I
Bob.
don't.
You don't.
I actually
William.
have a brother-in-law named Bob.
I have an uncle named Bob.
Why?
Bob's your
What's up
uncle.
with Bob?
Well, you have the expression Bob's your uncle.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hang on.
Okay, number 2. This one interns on Back to the Father.
William Kirkendall.
William, come on, man.
I did not see that coming.
You
I did
literally
not.
could have just said me.
William, I'm trying to give you. I always want Sissel to lose. I mean, come on. How much easier can
just
I
did
make
not
it
see that
on
one
you?
coming.
Oh, that was hilarious.
I should have seen
Yeah,
it.
you should have seen
you're really
that.
down
That
to
was
James and
hilarious.
William. Okay, so okay, okay. So then that's here. Okay, the first Norman
William the Great. Oh no.
Okay,
Wait.
the first Norman monarch of England.
William the Conqueror.
Now,
William the First.
Mr. Monarch didn't get
William the Second.
No,
William,
no,
what?
William the Conqueror.
I was
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
We had this question last
Because we
week.
mentioned, yeah, we used this as trivia last week. I actually involved because
What?
why were we involved? Because we were talking about famous
Monarchs.
monarchs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Thankfully,
That
there
is
aren't a lot of
actually
Williams.
quite literally probably the only reason why I got that right.
Occasionally known as William the, a word I can't even say. Starts with BAS and then a T.
Oh,
Okay.
that's unfortunate for him.
William, yeah.
His
I
name-
wouldn't want to be like
Can I make a
Dave
guess? His name is William.
Yeah. No, William the Conqueror.
Oh, that's what he's also known as William the Bat.
Yeah.
that one.
guy.
Oh,
yeah, no,
oh,
yeah,
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
same
yeah.
guy.
I wasn't gonna say it
Ruled
by the
from
way.
1066 until he died in 1087.
Right.
Okay.
Jeez.
You've heard of him, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I don't think I
All
remember
right.
that in my research of last week.
Okay,
but
so
I was on
okay.
polite websites.
Known for this is a new one here. Okay, known for his extraordinary archery prowess.
Oh.
He's a famous figure in Swiss folklore.
Oh.
He was instructed to use his crossbow to shoot an apple that had been put on
Yes,
his
on
son's
his head.
Oh.
his
What's
son's
his
head.
name?
And
I
one
read
of
a
the
book
best
about
known
this.
accounts of the legend, he split the fruit
Yes.
with just one arrow.
Oh, I read this so many times as a kid. Why can't I
yeah.
remember his last name?
Okay.
William
William
the Arrow Man.
William Tell.
Tell.
William Tell.
William Tell,
Okay. This next one is a Scottish military leader and a knight who was born in 1270. He was one
William the Great.
he was one of Scotland's most well-known figures during the wars of Scottish independence against England and Come on,
Oh, wait, I know
William
this.
with the Fab Kill.
they made a big movie about
Yes,
him.
they did,
The,
yeah.
the Mel Gibson movie,
Braveheart?
Braveheart. was
That's
a-
great.
Yeah.
I've never seen it,
Oh,
guys.
man.
Oh, come on.
Anyone in the comments?
My dad's seen this like a million times. I
Oh
should
yeah,
know this.
yeah. No, everybody's gonna know. Okay, somebody in the comments.
Someone save us.
Okay, so I'm gonna have. Okay.
Well. Oh wait.
yes.
I
Come
just
on.
had it.
You had it. Okay. Is anybody still with us?
They were because Forrest said
Okay,
Tell,
let's
and
see,
Forrest said Squidward has a brother named Squid William.
Okay.
Wallace.
Oh, okay. Forrest got
William
it.
Wallace,
William
yes.
Wallace.
Go,
That's right.
Forrest.
So we got Sissel, we got William.
The
and then
audience is on the
We
board.
got everybody else. Okay, with one. Okay. All right. So we move on. Okay. This person is well known throughout the world for his acting career. He was born in Philadelphia.
William Powell.
In addition, he is a former rapper and film producer. They collect. Okay.
I was thinking an entirely different generation.
He won
clearly.
4 Grammy
William
Awards.
Dafoe.
Well, he
Willem,
won
that's
4
Willem Dafoe.
Grammy Awards for his rapping. His stardom is increasing.
Oh, Will I Am.
No,
What?
his stardom has increased significantly because of roles in Bad Boys 1 and Bad Boys for Life.
Do you think these are movies we're watching?
Okay, he
Yeah,
also famously slapped Chris Rock at the Academy Awards.
Will Smith.
Oh.
I don't think of him as William.
Okay,
Come on, Will I Am.
Okay, did anybody get that one? Okay,
Adrian says, I'm here, but I know nothing.
Okay, he doesn't know that. Okay. Next one. Born in London, England, he's an English poet, painter, and printmaker. He is regarded as one of Romanticism's greatest personalities and is well known for his mystical and visionary writings.
William Faulkner? That was the only,
That's a good one, but
that's the only William author I could think of.
He's American.
Yeah,
William
yeah.
Faulkner.
That's what I thought. That's
He was
what
from
I thought.
like Mississippi or
Yeah,
something.
I knew
Yeah.
he was
No,
American, but I
yeah,
was just like,
yeah.
maybe he
Yeah.
was born in England. I don't know.
Even though he had financial. Okay, blah blah. William Blake.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Okay,
mhm.
yeah. I wouldn't
know that.
Yep. He was a poet. Yeah,
Okay.
and I memorized a poem by him. I think he
Okay,
wrote a
that
poem
doesn't-
called
that-
The Tiger.
Still didn't get a point though.
But he has a poem called The Tiger. If I can say the poem The Tiger, do I get a point?
No, sorry.
Let me see if I'm actually right about that.
Okay, let's see. The son of Charles, King of England.
Oh, Prince William.
Prince William, yes. Okay, you had to see that one coming, right? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. We have two more. Okay. You are mathematically eliminated from winning this. Okay,
Yeah.
William. Okay.
That is unfortunate. but
William's like, what else is new?
Okay. American software engineer and business magnate, born in Seattle, Washington in 1955.
Bill Gates.
Yes, Bill Gates.
It took me a minute.
Yeah.
There's so many nicknames
He-
for
he
William,
is
okay?
William
That's true.
Henry Gates III.
Okay, well, that's
La-ti-da.
extra. That is too extra.
We didn't need to know that.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Final one. Okay, it's worth 6 points. I'm kidding. I'm just always trying to find a way for
Always
Cicero to lose.
to antagonize me.
Okay. Actor, comedian, writer, and producer, hails from the United States. As a cast member of the NBC sketch comedy program Saturday Night Live in the mid-1990s, he initially gained notoriety. In late 1990s,
Bill Murray.
In the
No,
late
that's
1990s
too
and early
late.
2000s, a group of top Hollywood comic performers known as the Frat Pack began to emerge. He's regarded as a member of this group. He also starred in the movie Elf.
Oh, William. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can see his face. I can see his
Yeah.
Will Ferrell.
There you go. All right.
By the
so-
way, William Blake did do the poem "The Tiger," and it's a very cool poem. So if you
And
ever
you
want
still
to read
didn't
it,
get a point.
Yeah, tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
what immortal
I
hand or
remember that.
eyes could frame thy fearful symmetry? You've
Yeah,
heard that
I
one, right?
remember.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
So-
We got a good number of people watching us on YouTube. Thank you
Yeah,
so
we
much.
do. Mario's there.
This may be a record.
Hey, and Leo Owen says
Okay.
Braveheart is really good. So I'm
and
sorry we have not watched.
I
have not watched
I
it.
did have that Will I Am.
Will I Am?
guy.
Oh.
I thought I had that.
Yeah,
on
he's
here.
like, I think he's a rapper, producer, or something. I don't know, but his name is Will.I.M. That's like his stage name.
So did y'all see the connection, like the will of God, and
We got it,
Will.
Dave.
Okay, just didn't know if you guys caught on to that or not.
We didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it during.
yeah. It's just like wow. Yeah. All right.
Man, I'm annoyed about William Blake, but it's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Everyone
Yeah.
just go read a poem by William
Cecil,
Blake.
there you go.
you're the
Call it
only
day.
person I know who can get 6 points
And be mad.
to your opponent's 0 points and still be whining about the outcome. Okay, only Cecil Anderson does that, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
demand
okay?
perfection from
Yes,
myself.
it's like I wanted to even pound him even harder into the ground. Okay,
To be completely honest, it has nothing to do with William. It has
he just
only
found
to
out
do
he's
with
not
me.
getting $1,000 an episode. Okay, because he didn't ask for it. Okay.
Oh, by the way, Forrest just caught on about why we were doing William.
Oh, see, I do have to remind the audience
yep,
then,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you to James Jacoby and Cecil Anderson and Will I Am Kirkendall. And thanks everybody for watching. God willing, we're going to be back next week, and I'm actually going to return again 2 weeks in a row.
What?
Okay. All right.
There you go.
And thanks for watching, everybody. God bless you.
I
And
won't be
remember,
here, though.
always be in the will of God. Yes, Cecil will not be here. Okay. See you later. Thanks for watching. God bless you. We laughed, we cried. So we wear everybody down with deep Thomistic philosophy. And then
Thanks for joining us for Back to the Father. And don't forget, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. If you have comments
tiger
about the
what?
show, email Dave Palmer
I don't think
at
so. I have now.
grnonline.com.
I like having you in studio. it's a whole better dynamic. I mean, it just looks bad to have the camera going through the glass, you know.
That's true.
Okay, so let's